So today we'll see how we can make use of linked state mixin and value link property. These are basically add-ons and they are accessible when you have the React with add-ons script, and these are basically used for two-way data binding. So basically in a React application, it's very common for a component to contain state that should be editable by a child component. The most basic example uses a text input with a value and onChange handler to display and update the text. So over here we can have a sample component, let's call it form, and as you can see over here inside the render function we have an input element and there is a text state basically, and with changes on onChange. So we have handle change event coming up over here, and whatever value is placed inside this value is basically updated by setState method. Now if we have multiple text boxes like we have in our review form, if you notice here we had a couple of text boxes and all we were doing is associating different change events. Now doing this repeatedly, that is over and over, especially in a component with a lot of controlled inputs, can get repetitive. Now the React add-ons that we have when we make use of this particular script provide the linked state mixin to simplify situations where an input should remain in lockstep with a given piece of state. So if we have to do the same example using linked state mixin, then all we need to do is this. So here you can make note of mixins, and we are making use of linked state mixin, which is then having the get initial, and rest every other thing that we had is there. The only difference you will notice is that there is no handle change event because that is automatically provided by linked state mixin, and as you can see there is no onChange event associated over here. All we are doing is making use of value link property, and then instead of this dot state we are making use of link state, and then the text is associated in this value link. So let's check it out first with the old sample, and then we'll come to this one and see whether it works the same way or not. So I'm saving this one over here. Let's render it. So we'll say react.render, and then we'll have the element over here. So we'll say form, and then document.getElementById. Inside that we'll have the ID of the container, div container over here, and then terminated by semicolon. Save this and let's run it over here. So we'll say two-way data binding HTML, launch in browser, and let's print the state over here. So we'll say this dot state dot text that we have over here, text. Saving it, refreshing this page now, entering a value over here. I think we are trying to return a couple of things from here inside the render function. So what we'll do is we'll have one div associated here, and that div will be containing the whole input and this state. So now if I rerun this one, you can notice that as soon as I'm typing it out, the state is getting updated on change event and showing the updated value. Now let's do the same thing, but now we'll make use of the linked state mixin and value link. So let's come in the top portion here, we'll come in this one, and we'll have this enabled, and this one will be then taken from here. Now if I run this one, here also I'll make the same changes. So we'll have a div, and this will be inside a div element. After that we'll have the value displayed over here by making use of this dot state dot text. So now if I run this, it should behave exactly the same way. Refreshing it now, so here you can see the text box coming up. Now if I write Skill Bakery, you see the same kind of effect is there, but with lesser lines of code, and that's the beauty of linked state mixin and value link. So when we make use of linked state mixin and value link, the input and the text state will remain synchronized. Changing the state via setState will update the input, and changing the input will automatically call setState, updating the text key. So whenever we say this.linkState and a React link object, you must have noticed that inside the value link we are making use of this.linkState. Now this is a function provided to our component by linked_state_mixin, and what exactly it returns is, it returns a very simple object created by React's React link module, and what it does is it just has the value, that is the current value of this.state key. Key is basically text over here. That is what we have in our form. So state is text, so that's the key basically. And then it has a request change function which gets called whenever there is a change happening. So function to call update this.state key, and that function, basically request change function, is responsible for updating the state key. It looks something like this. This is the object that is being returned by this link state. Now the value property contains the current value of this.state.key, and the request change property is a function we can call with a new value for this.state key to update it. So if we have to write the same example using these objects, it will be something like this. Here inside the render function you can see that the link state text is actually returning the value link, and then we have the handle change function which is then making use of the request change function as shown over here. Request change is the function which is returned by this.linkState function. So all we are doing is we are making use of that function to update the state, and event.target.value is basically containing the updated value of the key. So here whenever onChange handle change event occurs, this gets called, and it will then internally call valueLink.requestChange, which is going to update the state key. So that was just to explain the intricacies of linked_state_mixin and value link. And this way we do two-way data mining in React.js.